Hey everybody, welcome back. This time we are on another Zoom meeting. It's middle of the res road here with one of our sponsors, Talon Metals. We have Jess from Talon Metals. Thank you for coming on and letting us interview you and kind of put you in the hot seat a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here.
I guess we'll just get right into it. You want to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from?
Yeah, definitely. So my name's Jessica Johnson. I am the community outreach manager at Talon Metals. I'm originally from Hill City, Minnesota, just south of the Grand Rapids area in Aiken County, just about an hour west of the Duluth area. It's where I was born and raised. I went to school at the University of Minnesota in Crookston and got my degree in natural resource management and communications. I've been working with Talon Metals here on the Tamarack project for about 3 years now. Before I was with Talon, I was actually working at Long Lake Conservation Center, which is one of the state of Minnesota's environmental learning centers for students across the state. But I joined Talon, 3 years ago. I felt like it was a really good segue from my time at Long Lake, teaching people about natural resources and how we manage those resources in a responsible way, to doing kind of a similar thing with Talon Metals with community outreach and teaching people about our project and what we're looking to do with the project in terms of natural resource management.
So what do you do in Talon, going from that position?
So basically, what I'm in charge of is overseeing all of our community outreach. So that's both sharing information with the community about what our project is all about, but also gathering feedback from the community. So I do this in a few different ways. We have an open door policy at our project, so people can schedule tours, and I'll go out on the project site and walk people through our buildings and meet our team and show them what we do. Take them out to our drill rigs to see the exploration process of the Tamarack Nickel project, and just really answer questions and gather feedback. Some other ways that I do outreach: I attend a lot of local meetings, so go to county, city, township meetings, lake association meetings, just to provide presentations and information. And then we also host community events, and these are open to the public where people can come and meet our team, and we have food and information, and just a good time to also build relationships with people.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, it is fun. I get to meet a lot of different people, which is, I think, the exciting part about the job.
So you went to college for communications. Would you describe yourself as more of like an extrovert then, because you're super good at talking and building relationships?
Surprisingly, no. I actually think I'm more of an introvert, which is really weird. I think I like talking to people for my job and presenting and communicating information. I think the combination of having a natural resource degree background and communications, I like to try to simplify scientific information so that people have a better understanding, who maybe don't have a science background. But I'd say just in my personal life, I definitely just enjoy kind of being alone, not talking as much, probably because I talk at work all the time. So I'm more like to just do my own thing. I'm a pretty outdoorsy person, actually. So I like to go running and do cross country skiing, ice fishing. I'm getting ready for once it's cold enough and the lakes freeze over.
It's happening pretty soon.
Yeah, but not as much, talking to people outside of work, surprisingly.
Yeah, cool. So what does your typical day look like at Talon?
Yeah. So I mean, I think I covered what my personal day-to-day is between meetings and presentations and giving tours. But I guess in terms of our whole team at Talon, day-to-day work is kind of divided into two categories. So our team is working on exploring the geology around the Tamarack area. We're an exploration company. Really what our goal is to search for places where there is high grade nickel and copper and other metals that we could potentially turn into mining operations to gather those sources of materials to incorporate in our daily lives, and also for the clean energy transition. So nickel specifically, which is the key metal that we're searching for, is used in the batteries of electric vehicles. It's actually what helps the vehicle go a longer distance without having to charge. And that's a big focus for our project, is being able to find sources of nickel to be put into electric vehicle batteries. This last year, we actually were able to get into a partnership agreement with Tesla. And in that agreement, if we're successful and we become an operating mine, we would be supplying a portion of our nickel to Tesla to actually go into electric vehicles made here in the USA, which is pretty exciting. It was a good accomplishment to reach that milestone, but there's definitely a long ways to go with our project. We still need to go through a lot of steps in the environmental review and permitting process before we can get to construction or operation. So day to day, we're still exploring and trying to find additional sources of nickel, but with the one location that we've already identified, the nickel, our teams are working to begin the environmental review process. So we have a whole bunch of people that are working to collect environmental data. We have a team of engineers that are designing mine plans. And then once we compile all of that information, we'll be submitting that to the state and federal regulatory agencies to start the environmental review process. So kind of a lot going on in terms of day-to-day. There's really exploring for nickel, but also preparing to hopefully begin the construction and operation of an underground mine in Tamarack.
I thought it was a lot of like lithium that went into the batteries.
So they're called lithium ion batteries, but there's lots of different metals that go into those batteries. So lithium is one, but specifically there's an anode and a cathode portion of a battery. And in the cathode portion is where you see the nickel. And there's several different battery chemistries that you can use to make a battery. Quite a few of them are nickel based that incorporate the nickel, but there's also iron based batteries. And that's something that we're looking at too, because the rocks that we have here in Tamarack also have a lot of iron. So we're looking at ways to be able to produce the nickel product for nickel based batteries, but also the iron product for the iron based, which is pretty cool too, because typically that iron wouldn't be used for anything. It would actually just go as a waste product in a waste pile. So we're trying to see if, instead of it being waste, we can actually utilize it as a product.
Very cool.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to ask, so Talon mainly mines nickel. What if there are other metals pulled out of the ground, what do you guys do with those then?
Yeah. So ultimately, we're trying to utilize as much material as we can. So in our minerals that we see, nickel is the primary. There's also copper, cobalt, platinum, palladium, gold, silver. All of those kind of come together with the geology that we see in smaller amounts. So in the processing, we would be looking to extract, as many of those as possible. So you typically have a nickel concentrate where it's just the nickel separated from the rest of the material, and a copper concentrate. Sometimes with those, some of the other metals get kind of scooped in with them.
Yeah.
And then we're also, like I mentioned, looking at the iron concentrate as well.
So my question is, how did you guys find it in small town Tamarack? I mean,
That's a really good question, actually. We get that question a lot. People say, why are you even looking in Tamarack? Why start there? And it's actually kind of a cool story. It started back in the 1970s, actually. So in the 1970s, the state of Minnesota used money from the penny per pack cigarette tax increase. So the extra money from increasing the tax on cigarettes was used to fund a statewide geophysics survey. And the whole point was to survey the state of Minnesota to gather information on any potential areas that companies would maybe be interested in exploring for metals. So the state did this survey. It was actually an aeromagnetic survey. So they had an airplane that they flew back and forth across the entire state. And they did the aeromagnetic survey, and that data came back with any anomalies or unique areas that just looked different than other places that they might want to follow up with drilling. And Tamarack was one of those locations. So they did 2 drill holes just down to the bedrock to collect a sample and send to the lab to see what it was. And they ended up doing this for the whole state and made a report that they published in the 90s. And when that report was published, there was a geologist who worked for Rio Tinto mining company, and he knew enough about nickel geology that when he saw that report, the rocks that they saw in Tamarack, he thought were that made it a good place to want to explore for nickel. So he was able to kind of spark that interest for Rio Tinto to first start exploring. So they started drilling here to explore and collect core samples in 2002. And then our company, Talon Metals, joined as a partner to Rio Tinto in 2014. And we're now the majority owner and operator of the project. We're still in partnership with Rio Tinto, but we just get to see the day-to-day operations and really drive the project forward. So that's what we've been doing now. But I always think it's a kind of a unique backstory that
yeah, 50
really
years.
what brought us here was, some data that was collected by a cigarette tax increase that the state funded.
I remember that was one of our trivia questions a long time ago, a couple episodes, probably right when we first started.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And we were all like so shocked that it was that far back.
Right? Yeah.
Crazy.
I think it's interesting. I mean, it kind of just goes to show how much work and time and effort goes into trying to gather all of the information that you need to even start an underground mine operation. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot that's already happened on this project just in terms of understanding what's here, but there's still a long ways to go in terms of all of the environmental data and the engineering and the full detailed mine design. Those are all the things that our team is working on as we speak.
So,
oh,
go ahead, Morgan.
I just wanted to touch base on that. You guys are an exploration project right now, and you guys have how many drill rigs? Didn't you guys just get 6 new ones a couple months ago? A few months ago?
Yeah, so we had 3, and then we got 3 more just recently. The last one actually just showed up on site a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So we're up to 6 total. And so so you're correct, we are an exploration company right now, so we're not actually mining right now. We just use the drill rigs to collect core samples. So the drills, they go out at certain targeted areas that we've identified through more of our geophysics surveying, and the drills get set up and they drill a hole down into the bedrock. We see the nickel mineralization anywhere from 300 to 2,000 feet deep, so very, very deep underground. And they pull up a core sample, which is basically a tube of rock that's about this big. And in that tube of rock, we then bring that into our core shed, where our team of geologists examine those core samples, and they really collect all of the information that goes into our computer database and builds out a 3D model that really shows us what does the nickel look like that deep in the ground. It's not just a nice pretty block of metal underground. It kind of moves and flows. There's narrow parts, thicker parts, and that's really what our team is doing right now, is defining what is the size and shape and scale of that mineral resource, and then using that 3D model for the engineers to design how would you create a tunnel to go down to that location, how would you safely remove the metal that you want and leave the rest of the material that you don't want. That's what I think is pretty special about this project, is the metal is very high grade, so it's very compact underground rather than being dispersed amongst the ground. If it was dispersed, then you'd have to design more of an open pit where you collect all of the material, even material you didn't want, just to extract the pieces that you did want. But since we have that high grade metal, we can plan a design where there's a much smaller footprint. You can just tunnel down to the area you want to focus on, extract that metal, and then leave the rest. So that's really what our team is working on right now.
How much does one of those drilling rigs cost? Just out of curiosity.
Oh my goodness, I don't actually know off the top of my head, but I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're pretty expensive, but the way we explore is pretty unique to other exploration companies. A lot of times you would just hire a separate drill contracting crew to come in with their own drill and work on the project. And we really decided to hire our own drillers and purchase our own drill rigs. We did this during COVID, actually. When everything shut down, we kind of had a choice to make. Do we shut down because you couldn't get a drilling company to come out? Everything was shut down. So we decided, do we do that, or do we purchase our own rigs and try to move things forward? And we chose to purchase our own rigs, move forward, hire our own drillers. And that was really beneficial for us because we were able to continue exploring, and we've grown since then. We really started with purchasing one drill rig and having one drill team, and now we're up to 6. And that was just 2 years ago when we decided to do that.
And you guys are looking for driller helpers. Is that correct?
Yes,
You
yep.
guys are
We are actively hiring right now. Actually, if you go on the Talon website, I have it pulled up here. There's 5 different positions open right now, but the drill helper is one of them, which is a learn on the job position. And yeah, there's quite a few different opportunities. There's also environmental technicians, entry level positions, geochemists, data specialists. So lots of different job openings. We've really grown our team quite a bit in the past 2 years. When I started, there was 8 people on the Talon team total. That included the management team, which is based in Toronto. And now we have 87 people on our team.
Wow.
And
oh my gosh.
yeah, 70 of those are on site in Tamarack.
Wow.
Big
Crazy.
team. That's between the drillers, we also have, field operations and safety teams, and then the geologists and the environmental scientists. So a whole bunch of different opportunities, I guess.
Very cool. We'll definitely check it out if anyone is looking for a job or knows somebody. It sounds like a great place to work. You guys are all so friendly and open and nice.
Thanks. Yeah. And if people are interested too, like I said, we do tours, so people can also learn about the project just by coming to site and getting to see the operations more and what it all entails and meet the team.
Speaking of that, we were actually on a tour with you, and you said that Talon is kind of in between 2 ceded territories.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you what has Talon done for the Indigenous communities within those ceded territories?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because the project is right between the 1855 and the 1854 ceded territories, where we are really focused on exploring and where the potential underground mine would be is within the 1855 ceded territory. And a lot of what we do right now in terms of our tribal community engagement is the same as the broader community as well, really trying to connect, build relationships, and educate about the project, but also gather a lot of feedback and input. Right now, where we're at with the project, we have a lot of opportunities to change our design and change our plans. And we really want the whole community to see that we're listening to people's input and then actually taking action and changing our plans. And so in a lot of our engagement, both with tribal communities and the broader community, we heard interest in what type of job opportunities could come with this project, but we also heard some hesitations and concerns regarding maybe how many people would move to the area. A lot of people like the small town vibe, and also concerns with how you safely manage processing these metals. And the tailings, the leftover material, how you properly and safely manage those. And so one thing that we've recently done with our plans is, we've heard this feedback, and some of our latest changes to our plan have included moving the processing portion of the operation and the tailings management to an offsite industrial location in North Dakota. So really that entire part of our new plan moving forward has stemmed from our communications with both tribal communities and the broader community on people's feedback of what they're interested in. So now as we move forward with our plan, we're looking to have the underground mine located here in Tamarack, and then the ore would be put onto covered rail cars and then transported via rail to an industrial facility that's out in North Dakota. And at that industrial facility is where we would develop the processing, which is where you separate the metal from the rock. And then the tailings management would happen at that site as well. And so that tailings management would also be looking at a dry stack type facility where your leftover material, you remove water from it. It's a dry mound. But we're looking at ways to mix that leftover tailings material with fly ash from the coal power plants out in North Dakota. And by doing that, we can actually neutralize or buffer the material so that prevents the potential for any acid generation or potential acid leaching, which is the primary concern that people have with tailings management of this type of mining. So, getting back to your question, this all stems back into building relationships and talking with our communities on what are their key concerns, what are their interests, and then how can we actually bring those back to our plan and make big impactful changes to our design. So I'd say that that's one of the big things we're trying to do. We're also, just honestly trying to learn and understand more about the history and the culture of this area. And I think you just do that through trying to get involved in as many community activities as possible. So that's something I'm always interested in learning more about. If folks are interested in having us join or participate in any community meetings or events, or want us to be a part of anything, we're happy to do that. Always a room to learn and grow, I think.
For sure. I love that.
Does Talon have kind of like a diversity opportunity for like Indigenous communities, people of color to apply? And
Yes, definitely. And we just recently this past year joined the Minnesota Tribal Contractors Council as well, just as another way to try to spread the word about our project, but also network and meet more tribal community members and business owners to see if there's ways that we can connect even more. Even if there's not the specific right job with Talon for people, there might be ways that we could collaborate with tribally owned businesses. In our day-to-day operations, we need a lot of things from purchasing fuel and parts, and every once in a while we need to hire out special jobs for fixing things. We try to spend our money locally as much as we can, whether that's office supplies, all sorts of things. So we're definitely open to trying to collaborate with businesses and tribally owned businesses as much as we can.
Yeah, you guys are very good at including everybody, and I think here at Middle of Res Road we can tell that. Have you guys touched base with any cultural surveying?
Yeah, so that's definitely a part of the data that's being collected right now to get ready to start the environmental review process. So we've done some initial, just very preliminary cultural survey work, but we definitely have a lot more to do in the coming year as well. We tried to get some initial work done before the snow, and then the snow came a little bit quicker than we anticipated. So we had to take a pause on that initial work. But we have started with that.
And you guys drill throughout the whole winter season, correct?
Yes. Yep. So we do the exploration drilling and collecting core samples 24/7 actually. So the drill rigs have a day shift and a night shift, and then there's a shift that's off. So typically with that drill helper position, you rotate, you'll work days for 2 weeks, and then you have a whole week off. And then when you come back, you work nights for 2 weeks. So it's 2 weeks on, a week off, 2 weeks on, a week off, and then you rotate between days and nights. But the rigs do operate 24/7 all year round.
Crazy to think about.
Right?
That has to be
Actually,
so many core samples then.
There are. I mean, there are more core samples to log than geologists that we have. I mean, so we actually have a building right on Main Street in Tamarack that is strictly just shelves of boxes of core samples.
Oh my gosh.
Then when our geologists are ready, we can actually take the boxes out so they can lay them on the tables to gather the information. But yeah, there's a lot of samples, but you need a lot of samples in order to really understand what it is that's here.
So what happens after the exploration process? Then what happens after that?
Yeah. So the next step, as we're wrapping up the exploration of the area that we identified nickel. So as we wrap that up, we're now preparing to enter the next phase, which is the environmental review process. So we're planning to start that process in February of next year. And what that entails is we basically compile all of the information that we've been gathering about the geology, about the environment surrounding the project, from surface water, groundwater, wetlands, wild rice, aquatic wildlife, terrestrial wildlife, all these different components. And we compile this into reports that get submitted to the state and federal regulatory agencies. And that starts this process where they are looking from an environmental perspective at what are the potential impacts, what are potential ways to mitigate or avoid or manage those impacts. And in this process, as you start it, there's also opportunities for the public to weigh in and comment and review all of these. So these are public documents that get shared. And through this process, this is basically the public process to determine if a project can move forward to apply for permits, or if you need to change your designs or go back to the drawing board. So that's the next step that we're entering. So hoping to start that next year. And then, as you move through that, the goal would be to be able to apply for your permits and get approved in those, and hopefully construct and operate the underground mine.
So I kind of have a random out of left field question. What is the value of the nickel that you guys are looking to mine? Like, how much the dollar amount that's in the ground?
That's a really good question. So we actually just did a new technical report that updated our mineral resource estimate for estimating how many minerals or how much is in the ground. But that did not include the economic side of it yet. So we still have to do an updated economic analysis of that. So I don't have a specific answer for you on that, but that should be coming in the coming year where we update the economics of it. But just like in terms of our Tesla agreement, I believe that agreement is for 165,000 pounds of nickel in concentrate form. I'd have to double check our press release on that, but yeah, it's a small footprint in terms of, you know, the metal is very highly concentrated together, but quite a big impact in terms of being able to provide this source of material to our domestic supply chains.
Can you touch base a little bit about the project in Michigan that you guys just took part of?
Yeah. So our company recently just got the exploration rights to a 400,000 acre land package over in Michigan, kind of close to the Eagle Mine near Marquette, Michigan. We actually don't have any set plans yet for beginning exploration there, but really what that gives us is just an opportunity to continue doing the exploration that we do here in Tamarack, but at another location where we think there's a really high potential to find more nickel and copper and these other metals needed for the clean energy transition. So this was just a way to, you know, expand on the opportunity to continue doing exploration work. You know, a lot of times when you're done with exploration, when you've already identified a resource, you stop exploring and you just focus on moving that resource into production. But we really want to continue exploring throughout the area, both Minnesota and Michigan, while also moving forward to try to produce in an underground mine.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. So there's the Eagle Mine in Michigan.
Mhm.
You guys like communicate with other mines such as like the Eagle Mine or Polymet just to kind of learn from each other or touch base?
Yeah. The mining industry is actually a very smaller group of people. So yeah, I personally talk with a lot of the community relations people from the Eagle team. But same with, you know, others, you know, engineering teams from different companies can talk with one another and learn from one another. I think it provides a lot of good opportunities to learn what works and what doesn't work early on so that you can make changes and make improvements. I think that's how we've come to where we are now with modern mining and all these different technologies and techniques that are used in different areas. So yeah, it's definitely helpful to learn from others who've already you know, been through different steps and are in production.
Yeah, I think that's important to be able to have open communication with everybody to learn.
Definitely.
Very cool.
With that being said, Minnesota is kind of like a mining state. You know, you have the Iron Range up north, and Duluth was like kind of a hub for mining companies. On like your personal opinion, how important is mining to Minnesota?
Yeah, I think, you know, even beyond Minnesota, I think mining is extremely important just globally. If you look, you know, in terms of what we're trying to do as a whole in, you know, reducing impacts of climate change, reducing our carbon emissions. That all goes into trying to shift from a fossil fuel centric world and how we operate to more of a mineral focused, where we're transitioning to all these different types of clean energy, whether it's wind or solar or hydro or electric vehicles. And in this shift to doing that, to try to combat climate change, we're going to need minerals. But if the whole point is to do this to reduce the impacts of climate change, you want to be gathering these minerals and sourcing them in a responsible way. And I think, what we see in Minnesota and the whole United States is a very, very robust, process of how you go through environmental review, making sure plans are really following strict ways to manage operations safely. And you don't really see that everywhere else in other countries, for example. There's not the same set of standards. So I think it really is important for Minnesota and for the US to try to be at the forefront of showing, here's how we can responsibly source these minerals that we need if globally we want to take this shift towards cleaner energy.
I guess like that's something I hear a lot too is, oh, we should be pushing renewables, but a lot of people don't realize that comes from the ground. And
yeah, but I think the thing that we sometimes forget about too is these metals are infinitely recyclable.
Mhm.
Where fossil fuel, you burn it off, carbon emissions, and it's adding and contributing to climate change, global warming. But we have an opportunity to, once we have the metals out of the ground and we put them in a system, think of aluminum cans. We have our pop cans, we have a good system for continuously recycling those cans and reusing them because there's enough in the system already and we can keep recycling. We're not quite to the point of having enough metals in the recycling system for wind and solar and electric vehicles, but we can get there if we get enough metals in the system and we build out the recycling capabilities. We could get to a point where you can just have that circular economy and continue to recycle and reuse those metals, which I think is the ultimate goal. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a global effort of everyone working together, but I think that's where we're starting to see that push happen.
I can't remember exactly, but I was reading an article where like throughout human history, we mined like 600 million tons of copper or something like that. But we are going to need that much within the next 25 years.
Yes, I forget. I've read that same thing too, but yeah, I forget exactly how it's worded, but in order to meet the goals that we're trying to reach, yeah, it's something like even more than what we've already mined throughout human history is what we need, before 2050 or something like that.
That's so crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, I mean, if that's the goals we're trying to reach, we definitely want to make sure that we're doing the actual mining and sourcing these materials in the most responsibly and safe way that we can. And I think we have the ability to do that in Minnesota and in the US.
So to kind of like piggyback off the responsibility thing, what happens after you get all the permits done, the project goes through, you get all the nickel and ore that you were intending to mine, what happens afterwards?
Yeah. So in the state of Minnesota, there's, you have to have your closure and your reclamation plans included actually before you do the construction or the operation. So those plans for how you would reclaim the land back to a natural state, and the closure plans are something that need to be developed and put into our environmental review and permitting process. So that's something that's that our teams are working on, and that would be a part of that regulatory process before we'd even start construction. But that is, that's something, you're right, that needs to be thought of, is the full circle, from mine to end of life mine. And then also thinking about those metals and where are they going and how are they getting recycled. And that's something that Talon, is interested in learning more about, and trying to see if we can actually watch where our metals go. We work pretty closely with two of the leading recycling companies in the US, Redwood Materials and Li-Cycle, just because, we think it'd be really cool to say, metal that came from Tamarack was put into this electric vehicle, and then at this recycling facility, and then put back into this next electric vehicle, and be able to actually watch that, kind of like the labels we have on our food. People care about where your food is sourced. Is it sourced locally? Is it sourced responsibly? I think we're starting to see that people want to know the same information about other items that they use in their day-to-day life, whether it's their phone or maybe their car. Are the materials that were used to make that item, sourced in a responsible way.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's nice to know that you guys are still constantly adapting and learning to do different things. And I'm excited for what Talon Metals will bring in the future.
Yeah, I'm excited for next year for you guys for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting few years for the project, especially as we start that public process and the environmental review. And I would just encourage folks to be a part of it, and be a part of the process, and be involved, share your input, come to our community events and meetings, reach out if you want to have a tour. Lots of ways to stay involved in the project and learn more.
When is you guys' next community event?
It's actually next Wednesday. So this is perfect timing that we're doing this. So next Wednesday, there's actually going to be 2 different sessions during the day for people to come to a meeting. So at 12 o'clock and at 6 o'clock next Wednesday at the Tamarack Snow Flyers building, which is right on Main Street in Tamarack. Typically at these meetings, we have some food, we have a presentation, and then just kind of open time for people to have one-on-one conversations with our team. We'll have some of our core samples there and maps, and just a good time to casually chat with our team and learn more about the project. So if anyone wants to come there, it's open to the public. Anyone can stop by.
I love your guys' open door policy. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Just anyone can come check it out, and
just take it from us. Wear not fancy boots. Wear like hard.
Yes.
Boots are.
It is outdoors, and yeah, you definitely want to dress for the weather.
Jess definitely did ruin a pair of my shoes.
I'm sorry. I should have washed them for you.
I don't think we were expecting a tour though that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of impromptu. I'm just
Yeah.
used to, when people show up, the first thing I say is, hey, want to go out to the drill rigs? Want to
Yeah.
check
Yeah,
this out? So
that's awesome too.
It's worth it though. It was very cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, Jess, if there's anything you would like to tell our listeners, what would it be?
I think for me, it's, from the community side of things, it's just, if anyone truly has questions, concerns, I would want people to feel comfortable reaching out directly to us. I know sometimes there's hesitations or caution about going to the company, but I would just hope that people can see that our door truly is open and we are happy to have conversations with people. You can meet anyone from our team. Um, I will give a tour to one person or 10 people. You don't have to feel like you need to put together a group of people for a tour.
Yeah.
Give a tour to one person. So I think that's what I would want people to know, or just feel comfortable reaching out, or just call on the phone or email, anything. All of our information is on our website.
So that's another way people can ask questions is by going on your website. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah. So on the website, there's our phone number, there's email, our email address. So, if you didn't want to call, but you just had a quick question, you can ask that right off the website. So we wanted to provide lots of opportunities for people to reach out in whatever method they're most comfortable doing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
letting us put you in the hot seat a little bit.
No, this was great. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, if, as the project continues and we, start entering different phases of the project, I'd be happy to come back and share more updates on where we're at.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, actually.
Mhm. Very cool. Well, thank you, Jess.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
And we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.